I did my presentation on Claude Monet. Why I chose Claude Monet? First reason is because I love the style of Impressionism. Impressionism and Expressionism are my two favorite styles. Second reason, he invented this style. So someone who invented one of my favorite styles, I would love to research about. He also turned me into an abstract fan. Once I learned about this style in class, I was very into abstract. Before this, I was more into realism and traditional paintings. So he changed my artistic viewing. And his bold coloring and the unclear look from his brushstrokes help do this. I feel that his brushstrokes give his paintings a lot of characteristic, and coloring is a very important element to me. So, the captivation and the inspiration from his paintings is another reason why I chose him. He was an artist during the time period of the 18th century. He was also born in the 18th century. He became recognized in 1865 after winning acceptance to the Salon for Two paintings. That is when he received his first critical praise. Um, he continued painting until the day he died on December 5th, 1926. So not only is he an 18th century painter, but he also is an early 19th century painter. He had many famous series that he created before his last days came. His style would be Impressionism. He began to develop this new style when moving back to France from London after the war. His style was actually bashed by the critics. They called him impressionist in a derogatory manner. There was to make fun of him. They just were not a fan of his new style. The techniques for his style of impressionism was to try to capture the essence of the natural world, mostly landscaping, to use bold coloring and short brush strokes so it wouldn't be completely blended or even, which is one of the reasons why his paintings really captivate me, is for the bold coloring and the look of it not being completely blended. And then he also focuses on the visual effects rather than the everyday classical detail. So that's what makes it abstract. He's not trying to do a realistic, classic, traditional painting. He's giving your eye something new to look at, a very visual pleasure. His influences were quite a few. His first would be his mom. She would support him and encourage his artistic abilities until her death in 1857. His dad wanted him to go to business school while she wanted him to follow his heart in art. His second influence would be Eugene Boden, a local landscape artist. This is who influenced Monet to explore into the natural world and landscaping, because before Eugene, he was mostly doing portraits of people around the town. After moving to Paris, he was inspired by and influenced very much by a school. The school and influenced his artistic aspect in life, and that's when he decided to enroll at the Académie Suisse. Um, Another landscaping artist, Joanne Barthold Jonquière, was his next biggest supporter and influence in Monet's life. Not only was he an influence, Monet would seek him for advice, and so he was a friend and an influence, someone he just really looked up to. Camille Dosenex was an influence in the sense that she was his muse for many paintings, and she would later become his wife. And the city of Giverny was a big influence for him because he has many series that take place of the landscaping in that city. Also, the city of Rouen Cathedral in France, that he has a series of that, and the Thames River in London. Also, those three were big landscaping influences. His success and importance, success in finances. At first, he struggled financially. In 1867, when his firstborn was born, he was in desperate financial troubles, and his dad refused to help him. That led to him wanting to attempt suicide by drowning in the Seine River. Soon after he tried to attempt suicide, he actually found a fan of his work, and his name was Louis Joachim Gaudibert. And this guy enabled him to be able to continue his work and care for his family. Eventually, in the late 1880s and 1890s, he gained stable financial success. So he did end up successful financially. Critic-wise, he received praise and won multiple acceptances to the annual salon, one in 1865. That it was in the beginning of his career. Then, in the years later, critics began to bash him and his fellow artists he teamed up with that and began to call them impressionists. They didn't like his new technique, his new style. They said it seemed more like sketches than finished paintings. But he then gained back the critics' success and favor during the late 1880s and 1890s. His importance is that Monet began to develop a new technique and style. It's important because we still use the style today. People still enjoy viewing this style today. Monet band together with several artists alongside of him to form Société Anonyme des Artistes, Peintres, Sculptors, Gaviers to exhibit their own work instead of a salon. The salon was an annual thing, and he and his Impressionist society decided, let's start our own exhibit, and that was a huge historic moment in art. They held this exhibit in April, this revolutionary exhibit in April 1874, and they continued into the 1880s. This is how the style of Impressionism became about and known to the world and critics. Important works, well, the first one would be Impression Sunrise, because this was the first one that was viewed under his new style, and this is what made critics start calling them Impressionists, based on the title of Impression Sunrise. Created in 1872, it hung first in the Impressionist exhibit held by Monet Society in 1874. It now displays in the Museum Marmottan Monet in Paris, and the composition is oil on a canvas, 48 centimeters by 63 centimeters. The second famous one would be Rouen Cathedral Facade, and this is during a sunset time period. It was created in 1892 to 1894 with an oil on a canvas in Paris, France, and this is a piece that's a part of the famous Rouen Cathedral series. Monet would paint the cathedral in the town of Rouen at different time periods of the day. The dimension is 107 centimeters by 73.5 centimeters. The next important one is the bridge over a pond of water lilies. This took place in Giverny on an oil canvas in 1899. This is a part of his later series of 18 views of the wooden bridge over the pond, in which 12 paintings were completed. It gives prominence to the water lilies. Giverny, once again, was a big influence. He loved that to paint landscapings of there, and the dimensions were 36.5 inches by 29 inches. Additional facts on Monet would be Monet was born Monet was born on November 14th, 1840 in Paris, France. Monet married Camille and had a son in 1867 named Jean, and a second son named Michael in 1878. After Camille died, shortly after giving birth to their second son, Monet remarried in 1892 to Alice. He met Alice while his wife was dying. They actually all lived together, and Alice's husband traveled. So after Camille died and then Alice's husband died, that's when they remarried. Then Alice died in 1911, and Monet became depressed. Monet developed cataracts in his right eye in 1912, Monet underwent surgery in 1923 after getting cataracts in both eyes. Um, then he continued to paint. After that, and he passed in December 5th. On December 5th, he now his home in Germany has housed the Claude Monet Foundation since 1980. So his home and very special influential city of Germany is still with him today, as his house is being used for his foundation since 1980. And this is my works cited.